What's up, nerds? Winstreak here. Today's video, we are going to be taking a look at treasure chests. So I have this little character here, and when I collide, we bump into some chests, loot splatters everywhere, gold items, and the whatnot, and we can pick it all up. So we're going to be walking through how to create this. And without further ado, we will hop into a semi-new project. I have a bunch of random objects here. Essentially just time savers, and some of them have behaviors and variables, and I will do my best to make sure I talk about them before I use any of them, but mostly it's just to get the image down. That way I don't have to create images or use really sloppy art. And afterwards I will put up this project that I make here on my itch.io account. That way you guys can play with it as well. And yeah, here we go. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to put down a platform for our character to walk on. Zoom out a bit here, and I'm just going to stretch this out. I'm holding down shift, that way it's even in all directions. And also want the sky. And same idea, we'll hold down shift and drag it out. Ooh, that's a little too big. It should be good enough there. And I'm going to zoom in and make sure they are overlapping a decent amount. And then I'm also going to push the Z order down on our background for our sky to behind the ground. All right, and next we'll go ahead and add our player character, which is our witch. And we have idle, run, and some attacks. Actually, I think both attacks are the same, but we're not too worried about the attacks. And then from the asset pack that I grabbed this from, which is from 9EO, by the way, I'm also using the treasure chest from Humble Pixel. And you can find both their asset packs, both for free and purchase on itch.io if you're interested. And there'll be links in the description below. I did just outline the idle and the run. That way we can see our character a little bit better. And I'm also going to bump up this size. So I'm just going to double one of these and have it on keep aspect ratio, stretch, and apply to whole animation. And that'll go ahead and upgrade this whole animation. And now I just got to do it for run as well. So now that it's a good bit bigger, you should be able to see it. And for some reason I have glow on here, which I am not using, and that's why it looks all gross, all murky and whatnot. But remove that. So now we just have our character floating here in space, and we're going to make it interact with our ground here. So two different things I need to do. First, I need to, I guess this is already pre-done, but first you're going to want to make sure that the ground's collision polygon is actually on the ground. We don't want it up here, so it's floating like 5 pixels above the ground. And you can do this as cleanly or as loosely as you want, but there should be a little drop off from the bushes up there down to the ground. And now I'm going to set this to a solid behavior, which it's already done here, and that'll allow my platform behavior of my character to interact with the ground. So we'll start it up here, and it already has platform. I don't believe I changed any of the settings, and they'll just fall down there, and then I can interact with my mouse keys, and the character slides back and forth. I'm gonna bump this up a little bit. It's kind of slow. And now I will go ahead and add some movement for my character. So we'll set it to, if we are moving, we want to be on run instead of idle. And then also if I'm going left, I want to mirror my character. And we'll be doing that with keyboard, which I don't have yet. So I'm going to double click on anywhere on my layout, and we'll search for the keyboard object. We'll add that in. And I'm not sure if I use mouse, but I like to always add it. Now it's there in case we need it. And I'll go ahead and start adding my events. So keyboard, and a lot of times we use on key pressed or key is down. I'm gonna, oh, that's key code. I want key is down. Key is down. I'm gonna use key is down, and we're gonna look into either the right or left direction. And these we will use to know that we are moving. So I have this one. I'm gonna copy paste Control C, Control V on a Windows, and change the bottom one to the left key, top one to right key. And then for both of these, I want to set whether or not they're mirrored. So if I'm going right, I don't want a mirror because my character starts out looking to the right. And if I press left, I do want a mirror. So copy paste that and go ahead and switch it. And then we also want to change our animation to run. So if we go ahead and put one quotation, we'll get all our animations as an option there, and we'll just go ahead and click one, and we'll put that in the other one as well. And then we need a way to force it back to idle. So if our player character is, let's say, moving, and right click, and we'll go to invert. So if it's not moving, and then when we attack, which again is not something we'll be using, but something we use a lot. So if our animation is set to attack, I want to ignore that as well. So is playing attack here. So if I'm not moving and I'm not attacking, we're going to set it to idle. This means later on, if I add an attack, it's not going to force it back into idle while I'm sitting there attacking and not moving. So this sets us up for success later on. And we're going to set animation, not that one. We're going to set animation and hit quote, and we'll go to idle. So now our character should move forward with running, well, floating, lands back down on the ground, floats to the left, lands on the ground, and just idles there otherwise. And everything's looking good, so we can move on. And we'll ignore anything else with our character for now, and we will jump into treasure chests. So I have this guy right here, and we'll just drag one in. And again, it's a little small compared to my map. I'm just gonna make it look a little bigger so it's seeable. And we have a closed and an open animation. And the collisions are not in the same spot on both, which is annoying, but it shouldn't matter for this. So we will place it down right here, somewhere near the ground. This is not a platform, so it won't automatically fall. We could change that if we wanted, but I don't see a reason to. So we will just place it right there. And now we need our character to be able to walk into our chest. And when we do, we want that chest to open up, which is super simple. We'll just check a collision. So on collision with another object, and chest. And I am going to add an extra layer of, I guess, precautions is the right word. So on our chest, if we go under instance variables, I've already added it. And if you want to, I just have a Boolean here, initially set to false, saying is open. So it's not open, so that's false. And while it's not open, it's able to be open, if that makes sense. It's very redundant, but it is how we are going to block our chest from being opened multiple times. So now I can check Boolean and open, and I can invert this. So as long as this isn't open and we collide with the chest, we can go ahead and open that chest. So the first thing we're going to do is set the animation to open. And we're also going to change this since we have now opened the chest. So we'll go into the chest and Boolean, and we'll set that to open. Now, if we walk into the same chest again, it's already open, so we don't re-go into this whole action list here. and we don't have to worry about reopening the same chest multiple times. And we're going to add a function, and this will just be our chest open function. And then inside of this, anytime we open a chest, we want to call chest open. And then I believe all I did here was give it two parameters. One for the chest UID. So this is if you have multiple chests. If you want to remember specifically this one, then you will want to know the UID of this one. So I will go ahead and make a second chest here. Now, call chest open. This function is not going to remember what chest we bumped into over here. So normally if we just put stuff in this action right here, it would know, oh, you collided with this chest. So this is the chest we're talking about, but we're going to jump into a function and it's not going to remember what chest. So we're going to push in that chest UID, and that's as simple as creating a parameter and sending in chest UID. So now this function, we can go pick chest by UID, and it has this chest UID value for us. And additionally, we're going to create one more, and we're going to name this amount, and that's just going to be how much loot we're going to do. So let's just say there's a minimum of 4 plus a random amount of up to, this will end up being 3 more. And it's 3 more because it is 0 based. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is 4 items. And int pushes it downwards. I could do floor as well here. And then I think roof is how you would push it upwards, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 0, 1, 2, 3. But 4 to 7 items is what we're going for here. So this is the algorithm we are going to push in for the amount. And let's see. I believe we have our gear over here, and I'm just going to drag one out so we can see all of the variables. So we have this gear here, so tiny, 64. Make it seeable. All right, and then it has platform behavior. This is because I want to push the gear upwards and then have the platform automatically bring it down. There's other ways to do it. This was just the first way I thought of. And then they have a few different variables. And we are looking at something I called vector time and vector power and collectible. So vector time and vector power are going to go together. And we are going to, do I have a family? No. We are going to set the vector time of all of our gear to 10. And then we're going to set the vector power to an amount of push either to the right or left with the vector off of platform. And that'll make it move left or right at a certain speed while vector time is up. And we will do a countdown on vector time real quick. And once it gets down to 0, we'll stop that push. And then collectible will be, so if your character is standing right on top of your chest and then loot comes out, if it hits them, it would, sorry about that double click. If it hits them, it would instantly collect them. And I don't like that. So I'm going to start out with them uncollectible. That way you get to see them go flying through the air and land before your character can actually collect them. So I will make the collectible be false until vector time is down to 0 as well. So we'll do that right away while it is the most recent topic I talked about, and we'll do that with a for each. And we're looking at pieces of gear. So for each piece of gear, and we want to check that vector time. So value vector time is less than or equal to 0. Actually, we want to count down, so greater than 0. So as long as that vector time, which we just set to 10, is greater than 0, we want to come in here and we want to keep counting downwards. And we'll just do that every tick. which every tick means it's not going to be a scientific number. It'll be different on every computer, but it's not something we're too concerned about. As long as everything kind of splurts out in random directions, we will be happy. It doesn't have to be precise. So we'll go into gear and we'll subtract from the vector time by 1. So essentially that'll do it 10 times, which will be like a 1/6 of a second on average. And then we will want to either push the gear to the right or to the left using vector power. So up here is where we create our, actually up here is where we're going to create our items. So once we open that chest, we want to go ahead and create an item. And we do that through system. We're going to create a gear. And we want that gear to spawn just above our chest. So chest X and chest Y for now. Let's go over to our chest and see if I still have that image point, which I do. So our origin is in the center, and you can see on both of them. Oh, is this one not the same size? Boop. There we go. They're both the same size now, and the origin is just dead in the center. Image point 1 is going to be where we want the actual gear to come out of. So it looks like it's coming out of the middle of the chest. So whenever we work with spawning new items, we want to be working with this image point 1 rather than the origin. And what we have right here is working with the origin. The X and the Y is going to be the built-in origin of our item. And instead, we're going to move those to image points. And I want the X of the image point, and it's going to be red until we put in what image point we're talking about. So the origin starts out as image point 0, and then the first one we did is going to be image point 1, and we'll do that for the Y as well. Image point Y, and again, oops, those are backwards. We want that to be 1. So we want the X and Y of image point 1. So now that'll create that there, and we can go ahead and set a, do I have a move to? We need some sort of force to push it upwards. And all right, looks like I just use another vector here. So on created, I am going to push up my piece of gear with platform vector. And X is going to be left and right, which we're going to work on in its own little column down below. And I'll get into Y in a little bit here. But Y, we want it to go up. And 300 is the amount I used on my first project where I tested everything. And then I am going to set the vector power for each piece of gear as I create them. And we'll do that with set value, vector power. And we're going to do a random negative 300 to 300. So now we have an automatic upwards of 300 and then a random of anywhere between negative 300 and positive 300. And we don't care about inting this or anything because we're not going to actually work with these numbers, so we won't see the ugly decimals. We just need to hold it. That way in this, while we're doing the 10 countdown, we have a force to add to it. And the reason we can't just set vector X to a random amount and have it happen once, vector Y is going to be a push that it's kind of like a jump force. So it'd be like if you tap jump, your character is going to go the whole force of their jump. Whereas if you clicked to the right and your speed is the same as your jump, you're just going to move a little bit. There's like a resistance to X, whereas there's not really one to Y. So we need to continue holding down that vector power for the X axis, whereas we don't need to for the Y. And we set that here in our second function. While we are at 10 while we're above 0 seconds of vector this is supposed to be time. Well, we are at above 0 seconds of vector time left. And we will do a sub event. And now we will compare the vector power. And this will be to decide whether or not we need to push it to the left or the right. Value. So if it is less than 0, we're going to want to push it to the left. And if it is greater than 0, we want to push it to the right. And technically, if it's exactly 0, which the odds are very, very low, but we don't want to push it anywhere. So it just goes straight up and straight down. And then we're going to add a simulate to the gear. And like I said, the first one, we want to go to the left, copy paste that, and this one's going to go to the right. So right now we should be able to walk into our chest. It should create one piece of gear. It should pop it up and then it should go to the left or the right. So we'll see if that works before we add more. And we've got a nice little pop-up, and then we can see all the gear moving around with us. That's because they're using platform, and we have them set to default controls, which means our mouse clicks, which we are using for our player character, are also affecting our gear character. So unchecking that, they'll stop doing it. Now I can walk into it again. We see a nice little pop out, and that one also pops out, and that one pops out of the wrong treasure chest, which is fine because we're not calling a specific treasure chest yet, which is why we have this chest UID in the first place. We just haven't done anything with it. So first thing I'm going to do is, I don't remember if we're using this for anything. Some values can't be held if you delete a object. So I never delete objects if I don't remember if I created them for something special or not. But to actually delete that object, we can just do a start of layout and gear destroy. And I'll move that right up top. And to show that it actually deletes, I'll put that up above again and it no longer falls down. But these still work as they did, which isn't necessarily correct, but it is to the point we are at. So now we want that second chest to pop up over our actual second chest, which we're going to go into our function, and I'm going to right click, add a sub event. I always do blank sub event. That way, if I forget what I'm doing while I'm in there and I close out, it stays there. Let's see, we want to pick the chest by UID, and we want to use our chest UID that we brought in. So now we can find the chest that we specifically asked for, move this down, and we will use that one when we pick our image point. So the first one and the second one, huzzah. And it seems our vector powers are all going to the left. Curious about that. So I'm going to see if I can see anything real quick in debug mode. I'm going to hit this and pause, and then gear. We have this guy with vector x -199. Oh, that one went to the right. Cool, 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 cool. So it was just random. And now we can go about adding in more items. We will use this item amount right here in our function to decide how many times we want to do this. And that's as simple as adding a system repeat and amount. So we're going to pick the chest that we send in here, which will be whatever chest we overlapped up here. And we're going to repeat that 4, 5, 6, or 7 times. So now we should have a bunch of items kind of pop up and splatter everywhere. And it looks like we only got 2. don't think that should matter. So there's a chance that they're spawning the right amount, but they're just spawning them with the exact same trajectory. So we're going to sit here and yeah, we have 6 pieces of gear. One there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 on the left side, 2 on the right. So Sutton is up with our random. I'm going to try something real quick here. We're going to add a blank sub event. And I want these underneath this one. So those are that sub event. Now for if gear has a vector time of greater than 0, for each gear that falls under that. We'll see if that does anything. It does not. And back into the debug, we got gear. And where are our variables? Down yonder, negative 130. So they are getting random amounts. That's not where it fails. The failure is in how far over they are actually moving. Oh, I need to set max. Well, I think it's because the acceleration on vector counts. So they don't move at max speed right away. They kind of build up to their max speed. And we only do it for 10 ticks, so it wouldn't be enough time for them to vary a lot. So let me see if I can just bypass all that. Do There we go. So we get a nice little pop-up and they spread out a bit more. Second one was not quite as nice. Let's try that one more time. Very spread, less spread. Well, those are okay. Those are looking better. And what we did here, we set the maximum speed to the vector's power. That way, if we roll a 51, the maximum speed is 51. If we roll a 300, the maximum speed is 300. Then we set the acceleration to 10 times whatever we are looking, or whatever we're bringing in with vector power. And that allows it to just get up to that speed a lot faster, but at a different pace for each item because they all have different vector powers. So that allows them to push out a bit and gives them that separation. And if we want these to pop up a little higher, we can change that Y vector. Boop, boop. And then we can move these ones up as well. $500 is a bit much. We'll go down to 400, and that should be pretty good. And then looks like they don't like going to the left, so a little more troubleshooting is needed. We want this to be the absolute value of our vector power, because if they're going to the left, we are setting them to a negative number, and our maximum speed needs to be a positive number. That didn't fix it, though. Why won't you go to the left? I'm going to move these up here to where I create each piece of gear. And then we don't have to worry about for each messing with them, because on a creation of gear, anything you put directly under it is going to affect that gear. And then for each and our, if vector time is above 0, we're going to be talking to all of our pieces of gear 10 different times. So it gives a lot of chances to ruin something. And I'll pop that. And it still does not like it. Maximum speed is absolute of gear vector power. Oh, this needs to be absolute as well. Same reason. If our acceleration is 0 or negative, it's not going to go anywhere. Dodoy. So there we go. Up and left and right and anywhere. And now we need to be able to pick them up. And that's as simple as an on collision with our player. And anytime you collide with gear, this is where you'd want to go ahead and put it in your inventory. I don't have one, so we're just going to destroy it to show that we have collided with it. And here's where I was talking about earlier. If I'm overlapping the gear, it's just going to automatically grab it. And it looks kind of gross if you just kind of run over it and then only see one or no items. So we are going to have all gear start with their bullion collectible. And we're going to require on collision the gear to be collectible. And now we should be able to collect nothing. Huzzah. And then, close button. And then once we are down to 0 or less victor time, which we'll need a new event for, gear, vector time, value, vector time is less than or equal to 0. And a blank sub-event. We want this for each piece of gear. And we're going to set that to true. So Boolean set collectible to true. And now we should be able to collect them after their time runs out. So nothing. And then kind of as they land on me, I can start picking them up. All right, so now we have a treasure chest that can be opened once, spews out some items, and we can pick them up after they start falling back to the ground. Other things I added that kind of give a little bit of extra flair. We have a little glow GIF here. And, oops, I missed it. If we go ahead and click on this, that's just this little fiery image. And then from there, I have fade on it and radial blur and brightness and all sorts of just stuff and such to make it kind of look shiny. And the opacity needs to be brought down as well, which we're going to also be doing fade. So we'll start it out on 80. And like everything else in this project, it is a bit too small for what I want. So I'm going to drop in a double the size, and I'll probably drag and stretch this one upwards a bit. So it's going to open about there. And we'll have that go up. And this doesn't need to be too clean because it's going to be very see-through. So I'm not too worried about dragging and stretching it out and ruining the pixel quality at all. And then we have our point of origin down here, pretty much where we want it to overlap the open chest's image point, kind of the same as we had our items come out of. We want that glow to start there and drop down a little bit. So we're going to use this origin point to create a glow GIF. And we'll do that at the same time that we create this gear. And we're going to do it right below all of the gear attributes that we did. Not that it really matters, just to keep it a bit nicer. And we do that with system create object, glow GIF, and we're going to do the exact same as the other one. So chest dot image point x of 1, and tab, not enter, will bring me down here. Chest dot image point of x of y, also 1. So now we'll create that. And down here in its own event, anytime a glow GIF is created, uncreated, we're going to set that fade out, which is already built in, so it will auto fade out, which means we don't need this. Let's go ahead and run this and make sure that looks good. Boop. And looks like we created a bunch of these. So we don't want to create this once for all of them. We just want to create it once. So I think if we bring this above the repeat amount of times, we should just get that single one. Boop. And it looked like there was less, but I'm going to run debug just in case. And we can see our glow GIF right here has 0, and it should go to 1, and it goes to 1. And then up here, we also need to make sure it is by the correct treasure chest. So blank sub event, we're going to put this above the repeat. We're going to put this down here. And I'm going to copy paste this UID for the treasure chest. And this will have it drop this just one time. So now it will work on both. Boom, boom. Obviously, we don't want our gear to all be stupid little wooden swords. And the way our gear is set up, we have one object with 52 different frames, so 0 through 51 animation frames. So when we create this object, we're just going to set the animation frame to a random animation. Not animation, we want frame and random 52, and it needs to be an exact integer, otherwise it breaks. So that'll give us 0 to 51. I'm going to put that up top, not that it matters. And now, boop, random and random. So we get our chest and a bunch of items, and it's looking pretty great. And the last bit we're going to do is add some sound effects. And do I have sound effects on here yet? No. So we'll take this from scratch. We're going to double click out here and sound maybe, audio maybe, audio. We're going to add the audio object. And if we scroll down to, is this? I don't think it's that. Music, sounds. So sounds, we're going to import some sounds here. So right click this, gives us our little drop down, and we want to import sounds. And now you can drag and drop any sounds you like. And if I had a folder of sounds, I would drag and drop them in here, but I already have my sounds on my other one I made from dragging them, dropping. And oops, I can just click on this and control paste them after copying them. And once we have these sounds in here, we want to go ahead and preload them so they're ready to go. So on a start of layout, which I believe I made one for destroying that random gear. And we will preload our sounds. So double click that and preload. And I guess I can't preload all of them. Well, there's probably a better way to do this. I don't work with sound too much, but if you preload them, once you use them, there's less lag. So I'm just preloading each sound once, and then throughout my whole project, I can use them and they're already ready to go. So we want to, on chest open, play sound. And we're going to do the chest sound, and we want it to not loop. And I cut the volume in half for now. And do that. And now we have some lovely sound. And honestly, I don't know if you guys can hear this. Oh, hey there, Q. Sorry, I haven't been looking at my live studio. But not sure if you guys can hear the sound through my headphones. I imagine you can. I don't use live streams very often, so some of the settings might be different, but hopefully you can hear it. Otherwise, if you pull up the project, you'll be able to hear the sounds I have on here. I don't recommend using them in anything. Can't hear that sound. Weird. Yeah, my OBS shows it as you do. Where are my settings? Well, I won't go too far into sounds, but you can pull up the project. You'll be able to hear them. And don't recommend using them in any large projects. They are just stolen out of other games and such, just to show that they are usable. And I believe that might be the last bit. I'm just going to check my old project. Oh, we'll add coins. So for my coins, I didn't want to add more to the mass of pop-ups. So I just had my coin spawn right below with the items. And it was after a set amount of time, which gave everything a chance to fall. And looks like I used a little wait action here, about 1.2 seconds. And then I'm going to copy paste that because we're going to do another one for 0.3 seconds. We're going to create each piece of gold. Create object. And we wanted this on the left side of the chest. Oops, I didn't click. The object is going to be our coins. And then our Y is going to be equal with the bottom of the chest. And we don't need to add a new image point for that because the left, top, right, and bottom are all pre-created. So we're going to do chest.bbox bottom for our Y. And that'll create one just to the left. I'm going to drag that up there, and we're going to copy paste this below the 0.3 seconds. I'm going to swap this to plus 80. So this one will create it on the right side. And then we'll go ahead in our audio again and hit play by sound coins. And again, About minus 15 should be good. And we'll go ahead and run those. And pink. So those come up and then pop, pop, you get the gold. And this lands a bit faster than what my old one does. So I will drop these down a little bit. That way it's should be kind of right after everything lands. So you can run through this and you get your nice mass. I'm going to edit this one more time just for my own sanity. I actually like this one with a bigger gap. And la la, ching ching. Go ahead and pop these coins up one size like we did with everything else. And those are 80. And double check my old project to see if I'm missing anything now. I do believe that is everything. Like I mentioned multiple times before, you will be able to check this out on itch.io. Check the descriptions below. It might be a few minutes before I get it loaded up there. Otherwise, questions, comments, concerns, requests, throw it down below. Until next time, peace.